You're watching this, you're watching Keeping It Real, created by Real Geeks. Thank you so much. My name is Frank Klesitz. I'm your co-host. We're using a new little service today, so hopefully it's coming well for you. But we're going to talk about our New Year's resolutions for 2022. Less changed. Well, not changed. Well, things have changed. Not so much in real estate. It's accelerated a lot. But the world is very different now post-COVID. And a lot of accelerations have taken place that were probably in place already, but just sped up in 2020 and 2021. And we rounded up some of the sharpest minds in real estate for you today to reflect on the past year or two since March of 2022 when COVID hit, to kind of like make sense of everything that's going on in real estate, make sense of the appreciation of home prices and the little listing inventory and just kind of what's going on with technology and all the different services and products that are out there now competing for a homeowner or a buyer's attention. And we're going to talk about what our New Year's resolutions are for 2022. What we're going to sit around thinking about kind of over the Christmas break, if you will, before New Year's, writing our business plans for 2022, of what we're going to do differently, what we're going to change, what we're going to alter based upon, I guess, more or less a SWOT analysis, a little strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats of what's going on in the industry, what's going on with our own businesses, of some changes we're going to make. So we have some familiar faces here. I'm Frank Klesitz. I'm your co-host. I'm with Brendan Bartik. Say hi, Brendan.
Hey, welcome, or thank you for having me. Not welcome.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
If you have a chance to go watch some one of Brendan's shows that we've done, it's really powerful. Go check out keepingitreal.com, or you can go to our YouTube channel, Keeping It Real, and go search for Brendan. And he did a wonderful, wonderful show that will stand the test of time, regardless of whatever comes out here today, on buyer and seller lead follow. When the leads come into your Real Geek site or your CRM site, and someone opts on your website to want to learn more about buying or selling a home, what's the process to get them engaged and to respond to you and to talk to you so you can actually set an appointment and do a deal? And Brendan went through his entire process. It is excellent. Go watch that recording. It's available. I also want to bring up Todd Tremonti, and you probably know. Say hi, Todd.
What's going on, everybody? Frank said to say hi, so I'm saying hi. Hello.
Yep. So good microphone, Todd. You sound wonderful. And he has his all set up. And he's actually hosted some of these Keeping It Real shows. Does a wonderful job and has been a guest from time to time. And you can go back on the channel and search for Todd. Todd, what would you say is your most popular show that you've done? Which topic should the audience go watch?
I have to be careful how I answer that, because I did the very first one with Jeff years ago.
You were the first guest, weren't you?
Yeah. Well, remember, I was begging him to do them for years in the early days of Real Geeks.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to deal with it. And then he bumped into you and you're like, look, I'll just run it for you. And then we started them. Yeah. So I did the first one, but Jeff titled it in a very sensitive way, how Todd Tremonti gets blah, blah, blah commissions. So that's been super popular, how we get higher fees and things. But the one I get the most contacts about now is like how Todd Tremonti gets 1,986% ROI on internet leads, or whatever the exact number was basically our follow-up system and how we got great ROI on home search leads. So
if you have a chance, and you're watching this, go back, watch those replays. And you'll learn some really great stuff, in depth, nothing to sell you, on how to sell residential real estate. Well, we have some bright minds in the room. We're going to spend our time here today is we're going to go through and say, what have we learned over this past year, given maybe some of the changes, if any, in the real estate space, and what changes are we going to make in our businesses for 2021? This is our panel. So let's get started. Brendan, give everyone just a little bit of an idea of your business, of where you're at in your production level, to kind of set the stage, and tell us what you've learned in 2021.
Boy, I learned a ton. So yeah, we have a team. We have 24 agents, 5 support staff, and then 4 virtual assistants. We'll do probably about 130 million in sales volume this year. And which sounds crazy for as many people as we have, but we really kind of went through a restructuring on what our goals were. And we learned a lot about how we're going to move forward into the future. I also own a real estate brokerage that has 256 amazing agents here in Denver, Colorado. And then I also have a coaching company. So those are the 3 things that occupy the most of my time. And I would say the thing that I learned the most this year, and it seems very simple, is culture first. We had a real estate team over the years that was much more built on just straight, flat out hunting and production and crushing deals. And it didn't work. So I came to a point where I was at a kind of a cul-de-sac. We were doing 300 deals each and every year. And some people would be like, well, that's great. But I couldn't get past it. And it was just really frustrating me. And it was because it was built on the wrong fundamental structure. So the big thing I learned this year is if you don't have the culture right, you can have the best, most, I don't say best, the most aggressive agents on earth. You're not going to get very far. You'll get far, but you won't get to probably where you want. And the way there probably won't be as much as enjoyable as you'd like it to be. So,
that is so intangible for most to understand what the culture difference is. Can you give us the most tangible differences you learned of culture, of what that means, of the changes that you'll have to make? Like, give me the most tangible things that you've realized that the culture is what drives it all. Specifically, these things you have to pay better attention to.
Yeah. So what you allow and what you don't allow. And I think that's probably the easiest way. We used to allow certain producers levity to be a-holes, if I can use that word.
That works. That's a real word.
And that wasn't right. And there was a culture there of certain things that just didn't resound. And now we have a culture where it's kind of, not kind of, it is, we follow our 3 Ps: people, progression, and philanthropy. So we first designed the entire business to be more about everyone that was philanthropic. And with philanthropic, you can identify if you don't have people on your team that want to give back naturally. I have people on my team that are brand new, they're barely making any money. And they're the most philanthropic people I've ever seen. And then I used to have people on my team that made over 500 grand a year and wouldn't give a nickel to somebody. And so I that type of personality of give me everything and give back nothing, I think was really killing us. So we rebuilt it first saying philanthropy and then progression. We also had, we had to really build this around if you're not wanting to get better and improve every single day, meaning we're big like book club, life guru, all, meditation type people, then you're not going to like it here. And that's okay. Right. And then people, just making sure we were taking care of everyone. And I think, that phrase is easily said, but it's very difficult, especially during COVID and other times, to make sure that everybody was okay during this challenging time.
So in 2021, we'll go deeper into this, but you really learned culture.
Big time.
You learned it by immersing in it, that you had a couple different ones in your company.
Oh yeah.
A couple different cultures were going on.
Yeah. I said goodbye to 150 units a year in transactions between 3 agents that just weren't a cultural fit, and people were like, how do you do that? And I go, thinking about if you're doing 300 deals, it's half of your production walking out the door. It had to be done though. It had to be done for me to show up every day and want to continue to be excited about this. And then to be honest, Frank, I had to change a lot. I wasn't the person that I needed to be to lead. So I went to tons of leadership training. I went to, understanding, I went and studied cultures to see, what was working with people and what wasn't. And I had to learn a lot. I had to become a lot better.
I love that.
And I'm still on that journey.
Okay. Todd, let me hear from you. If you take 2021, what did you learn, dude? What did you learn this year?
I'll give you a quick download on that. I just want to comment on something Brendan said, because if I'm on his team, I love the last thing you just said, which is like, look, I had to go become better to attract better is kind of what I heard you saying, right? If I'm filtering it a little bit, if I wanted the kind of people, if I want to work with the kind of people that want to build a business, the way we say it in our team, in our coaching group is the only reason I'm building a business is to have a life of purpose and impact, like a life that actually matters, that I'm proud of. I've got friends in other industries that do literally hundreds of millions of dollars of transactions, billion-dollar deals. And they're like, dude, it doesn't matter. What I do doesn't matter. They envy us. And I feel like I'm selling houses. What am I doing? But what I heard you say is I had to be the kind of person that would attract the kind of people that I want to work with. And then it's not selfish to say I'm building a business so that I can live a life of impact. I want to build a business with people that are all wanting to live a life of impact, right? So one of the greatest things we did, luckily long ago for culture, was to be really clear on our core values, our company values, and not like someone else told me I had to have this vision statement thing, but what are our values? And we have them on the wall. We show them to every client. We show them to every agent we interview. And we're unbelievably selective because we're just not a values fit for that many people. And when you are, so much of the rest of it just becomes easier. So anyway, I'm already off the rails, Frank. You knew that was going to happen. But I got my pen. It's good. I got my pen and paper. I'm taking notes and learning too. So for me, I would just say one of the biggest things we learned this year is how absolutely overwhelmed our ideal client is. Right. So our prospect, our leads, whatever you want to call it, we refer to that as our ideal client, our ideal prospects. We only want to work with ideal prospects, which by itself was one of the greatest leapfrogs forward for our business years ago. But they're just overwhelmed. They're getting 1,000 messages from 1,000 different directions, and they're honestly kind of sick of it. And we felt like in 2021, and man, I would love to know if people are watching. I don't know if we have a chat or whatever, just how many people felt this, that everybody was just sick of it. Like, dude, half the time I don't know what to think because this sounds legit and so does this. And they're completely opposing opinions, whether it's on health or freedom or real estate or investing or career. You know, tons of people quit their jobs this year. Like, yay for them. Why am I celebrating that? I don't know. I'm so conflicted about everything. And we, from a marketing perspective, and that's kind of how my brain works, it's like, man, the people that we are trying to talk to are completely exhausted. So how do we talk to them differently? How do we help them solve that problem, scratch that itch, achieve that goal differently than we used to? Because they're feeling different than they used to, right? And Frank and I nerd out offline on copywriting and direct response marketing. It's like the goal of a copywriter is to enter the conversation that they're already having in their mind, right? I'm not trying to create some new opportunity from the ground up. I'm trying to help someone that already needs what I have for them. And I'm trying to kind of enter their mind and go, hey, we can help you with exactly what you're already thinking you need. Now, I can't help everyone, but I can help you with that. But this year, we had to tweak how we got that message to that person because of overwhelm. Does that make sense?
Well, I'll tell you, I'll just jump in with what people are doing right now because of that very issue, Todd.
Yep.
Our seller workshops.
Yeah.
Specifically more to an older audience, maybe lived in their home for 20 or plus years.
Yeah.
Basically, like, are you confused? Are you sick of the calls and the phone, the calls and the letters from investors and the real estate agents and the open door and the offer pad and the ads that pop up of selling your home this way and that way and this way? And you just want to step back and help understand all of your options.
Yeah. So I would say that lines up perfectly. I would say what we historically we've done a lot, but what we were doing this year very deliberately, you could call it a seller workshop, but we're doing it in everything from a 30-second radio spot to a 1-hour radio show to 8-minute YouTube videos to email follow-ups to actual live events. Educating the client, educating the ideal client, the ideal prospect through this process of overwhelm. And the single factor that is always sort of the filter in my mind, especially this year, is to be the voice of reason, to be the voice of clarity, right? So if everybody's constantly like, I don't know who to listen to, I don't know who to trust, I don't know what's real, is to just slow down and say, hey, look, I get it. This is Dallas, Texas, right? Dallas, Phoenix, Atlanta, some of the most absurdly overwhelmed communities in America. Denver's not that different. Of just, look, if there's venture capital to back an idea, let's go try that in Phoenix, Dallas, and Atlanta, right? So everyone is here offering everything via every media, every technology. And so we're just slowing down and saying, look, if people have been watching or listening to me for a while, they know who Tony and Laura Hernandez are. Those are our ideal clients. We want prospects that are like Tony and Laura Hernandez. I bet you there's people watching that can chat like, yep, I knew who that was when he said it, because I say it all the time. But when I'm talking to a prospect, if I'm picturing Frank in my mind, I'm literally talking to Frank. So it's like, hey, I get it. You considered moving across the country this year because this market was so insane. Now you had a lot of, you know what I mean? Like those of you that don't know, Frank literally moved across the country this year. But the point is, you're speaking directly to the frustration and overwhelm at a pace, at a tone, with deliberate messaging. That's like, you know what? This guy gets it. I think I could trust him. I'll take a next step with him, but not at warp speed. If you're a buyer right now in most of our markets, everything's at warp speed. And we're just saying, hey, it's okay to slow down. If you miss a house, we'll find you one. We'll find you some inventory that other people don't know about. Just take a deep breath. Let's get a game plan together before you go out there and get steamrolled by some greedy dirtbag seller that thinks they can get whatever they want from whoever they want without having to care for you. Slow down. We're offering free strategy sessions every afternoon in the month of January. We'll sit down. We'll buy you a cup of coffee, a Coke, water, whatever the case is. We can do this by Zoom. We just want to hear what your frustrations are, hear what your goals are, understand your life and your situation, and then we'll put a game plan together to figure out what's best for you. It's going to be okay. We can do this on your terms. Now, there's some boundaries in the market we have to respect, but let's just slow down, and then we can go speed up, and we can win for you. I want to communicate that confidence. We will win for you, but first, it is okay, right? We're speaking to that overwhelm because we realized in 2021, the vast majority of our ideal prospects are just like pissed off because of the constant overwhelm. You know,
Todd, you basically just gave a wonderful radio ad. It was like I was hearing the radio ad of like, there's you'd start the radio ad off. You probably just heard a real estate commercial and you're probably going to hear another one.
Right.
In this ad.
And if it's a good radio ad, it's a good voicemail. It's a good email.
Yeah, exactly. It's the message that resonates to helping them calm down, slow down, and really helping them understand all of their options. And I will throw this out here, guys and gals. If you go to Eventbrite, just go to Eventbrite and type in seller workshop, you'll see the copy. You'll see it. I mean, you'll see a whole bunch pop up. You can also go to sellerworkshop.com, which is an agent that does this out in Twin Cities, and see the copy. But, kind of the goal here for a lot of marketing is to get upstream from people before they build a relationship with a realtor or a relationship with someone to make a decision with, to kind of help them understand a buffet of all their options, to slow down, understand everything, and then kind of hold that relationship throughout the process so that agent stays at the center of the transaction. Todd, thank you.
Yeah, let me just pop in and feed off of what Frank's saying, because he's sending you to good. I haven't been there, but I'm sure it's super useful. Swipe and deploy copy. We did one, so we don't do everything well. There's no doubt about that. But one thing I think we did as a team, therefore, we do coaching and consulting, but it's basically like look over our shoulder at what we're doing for our team members. We don't teach anything we're not actively doing full out. So when COVID hit and everyone freaked out, we freaked out too. We didn't know what it was. We didn't know what the future was, but we just began to communicate about 8 times more than ever before, to be clear. And to what Frank just said, we tried to get upstream. We tried to get ahead. We tried to get into the kind of zone of clarity. So this year, 2021, one of the first things we did in every February, we do a little educational workshop, and we did one on wealth building through real estate. And that's really what the goal of it was let's just get an accurate lay of the land. Like, what is actually happening in home ownership, buying, selling, short-term vacation rentals, long-term vacation rentals, short-term flip, long-term flip. I wrote a book years ago called The 2-Year Flip, which is just, long-term flip, tax savings. So we just slowly and methodically went through it, and it was really successful. And then a lot of our coaching clients just replicated it. And just as a quick tip for people, all you need to do that well is to know your stuff that you already know as a good real estate agent. Drop it on Zoom and invite your database. Now, you can get more complex than that, but you don't need to. We did 4 parts, 4 main things. Short-term flip, long-term flip, short-term rental, long-term rental. And then of course we took questions, we left half the time for that, and it was wildly successful. So I want to make sure we give people actionable, cool, really good tips. So I thought I'd throw that in, but
Brendan, let's go back to you. Thank you, Todd.
Yep.
You said one of your big realizations in 2021 was the need for you to step up as a leader, to make sure there's one clear culture of everyone shares the same values in an organization. And he learned firsthand that that's not the case, and the pain of letting the money go when the people don't fit the core values, right?
Absolutely. I mean,
100%.
it was absolutely, I think it comes down to, and even hearing Todd talk about it, it's just what kind of business do you want to run and what kind of business person do you want to be? And there's, the word ethics is used so loosely. What kind of moral compass do you want to have and what kind of ethics do you want to have?
Those are big questions.
Yeah, those are tough because, I came from a Mike Ferry based system where it was, call, and just, we didn't really focus on past clients or the Hernandez.
The values there are money and recognition.
Ooh, that's it. Money. Gosh, did you nail that on the head? Money and
recognition. Money and recognition value system.
I remember being at one of his seminars and he was talking to somebody in the audience and he was like, so, the one person stood up, she was like, I'm not that motivated. And he was like, well, here, do this. Go buy an Aston Martin and you'll be more motivated. And I was like, and she went and did it in the audience. I was in the audience live and she went and bought this Aston Martin during this weekend retreat. And I was so it was part of that culture. It was like, you want to go get a Ferrari. And it was like, yeah. And I was like, so it's hard to deprogram yourself from that, and so that was a challenge. It was.
Well, and our industry's been bombarded with kind of the frat bro mentality, right? Who can grind the hardest? I woke up earlier than you. I made more. Like at the end of the day, who promised your wife and kids that you were going to win that trophy?
It's those are the values of a sales culture.
Yes.
Right? It's going to be a hardcore sales culture. That's the values. But as you start building a business and a more of a larger enterprises, those values start expanding, which you're finding, Brendan, right? The leadership stuff. Yeah.
And it's a learning lesson every day.
Let me ask you again. So values and leadership, you learned a lot in 2021. I like how Todd answered this question. What have you learned about the market? What have you learned about the needs or the messages that buyers and sellers respond to in 2021 that you're going to have to really double down and update your marketing or your messaging strategy around these pain points and these needs in 2022?
Yeah, I think
your messaging going to change.
Yeah. So for us, what we learned is you have to have more options. So when we're talking about seller options, cash, fix and list, guaranteed seller program, trade-in programs. So we really worked a lot on this year of saying we have this menu of items that we can help service your property with, because there's not a one size fit all. Before we were just like, again, so trained to be like, look, we do this, you give us this commission and that's it. And high five and I'm out. And you based your success on if you were good enough at handling objections and shoving this package down that seller's throat, right? You were kind of like glorified if you could crush that. So now what we've realized is sellers want options, especially in this market. And then the second big thing is buyers need the most creative options that we've ever seen at this point, especially buyers that don't have straight up just a boatload of cash on hand. So I think the big lesson we learned is how to answer those questions and provide, being on the front side of it, and some of them not even knowing that they needed it, that these programs existed, and then communicating that so we could get on the front side.
Brendan, that's the seller workshop, man.
Yeah, that's what I wrote it down.
Is going through all of these things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Understanding all of your options.
I like that a lot. I'll make one clarification just because I feel like I got a pretty good read on who our audience is here on these Keeping It Reels. You don't have to be able to offer every one of those things that Brendan just said. I think the more you can offer, the more resources and options and clarity you can offer a client. But there is a risk in trying to do 100 things if all you've ever done is one, right? So I think it's important, especially in a market like mine, where they're getting that message from every one of those, VC-backed internet-based companies. And those companies are spending millions of dollars to market in a deliberately misleading way. I don't think they're horrible, big, bad corporations, but look, there's some deliberate sleight of tongue there in, we'll make you an offer based on full market value. Well, all offers are based on full market value, but they are not making you an offer at full market value unless they messed up their algorithm, which some of them did. I think the point Brendan's making, which I totally agree with, is the more you can be the more you can have options to help them find the perfect solution instead of trying to cram everyone into one size fits all, the better. The risk in that, I think, is you having 27 options and you're not super effective at any of them. So I'm sure we would all agree that the more you can provide, the better, right? If you're in a market where you've got these big iBuyers and you can also say, look, if what you really want is a cash offer on your home, we can get you one in 24 hours. But that's rarely the best option for you. So that's typically not what we lead with. But if that would be helpful to you, of course, we can do that also. If you need a little bit of help getting your property ready for market to maximize value in this market, we've got some options for that too. But again, my big major push is to say that in a way that is calming and soothing and building confidence instead of barking.
You're doing a consultation, a needs analysis.
Right. And that's where Frank says that's a great thing to share in a workshop instead of what could sound the opposite, right? We specialize in this. You can't specialize in 27 things, right? But what you might be able to do is analyze someone's unique situation and offer customized solutions from these 16 different benefits we can offer a seller.
Well, I think for the first time in a long time, or maybe ever that I saw, especially on the buy side, this ability to front people cash to be able to buy a home, to be competitive. I would say this year was the first year that I really saw that, and maybe a little bit of last year, that this, whole system came to existence where we're loan sharking money on the front side to give somebody a position stake so they can compete in the craziest, if you're in that kind of market.
Yeah.
So I think that was a really interesting market change that I think is changing real estate from the future on, that we're loan sharking people money on the front side so they can have a more attractive offer.
We call them power buyers, the buy before you sell, the knocks, the homewards.
Right.
Yeah.
We started doing something new that people might want to hear about, Frank, in that regard, to help our buyers have more success. For years and years and years, we have offered the buyer agent on our listings a 5-day, 4-night cruise for 2 at closing. What we started this year was we would give our buyer a 5-day, 4-night cruise for 2 to offer the seller with every offer that we made. So we submit an offer, we're throwing a cruise in on top. Now, I know how gimmicky that sounds. The fact is, the cruise part is totally legitimate. I've been on them. Agents, team members have been on them. But in our market, it was so absurd that we couldn't even get a call back or a text reply on our offers because sellers legitimately would have 15, 20, 30 offers sometimes.
Wow.
So you couldn't even get a response to figure out how to be strategic with your offer. So it didn't always win the deal for us, obviously, but it almost always got us a call or a text reply like, dude, what's up with this cruise thing?
Who's the vendor for the cruise provider?
So I've got a vendor and I can share it with folks. It's a travel agency out of California. If people can, if you just email me, Todd@toddtremonti.com. I don't mind sharing.
Like you just said, but you're putting something creative to still get one more layer down. Like you said, whether you win or not, it brought attention to yours. And I love that.
Right.
There's things like that where it's like, here's the problem. We have our buyers agents out there getting destroyed because they're putting in offers with 30 other offers.
Yep.
Put that on the whiteboard. How do we solve that problem?
Yep.
Offering a cruise, I would have, Todd, I don't think even if I would have had a 3-hour mastermind on this,
Right.
it would have ever came up, but I love it. And it's that kind of creativity that's so cool.
And it was not my idea, right? So we've been doing it on the seller side for years. I never thought of it. One of our agents was like, hey, would you let me offer one of those, the reverse, like from buyer to seller? And I was like, hold on, let me think through the restrictions on this. And I came back a day later. This was at a team meeting in front of everybody. He's like, if I could do that, I think it would help. We came back and I was like, absolutely. And I've got, I'll cover it. And so boom, off to the races we started and we saw immediate results. Again, not 100%. We don't always get those offers accepted, but we're virtually always getting the response. And we definitely are getting some accepted that we otherwise wouldn't have.
It's awesome.
Frank, you guys asked us 3 things that we wanted to improve in our business for next year. You want me to share 1 or 2 of those?
Yes.
we're going to add a couple of agents, and we're not typically like just a grow, add tons of people. I didn't give my numbers before. So real quick, we've got 6 agents on our team. We're not trying to build a massive team. We have about 12 total people though. So we have a lot of support and staff and marketing, creative. And very much by design, we'll sell about 200 homes this year for about 85 million, but we'll do about 3 million in GCI. So you can tell there's some skewed numbers there, and it's not our purchase price, it's our commission rate, which most people that know me know that on the listing side, our fees are a little bit higher. So we can talk about that later, but that's really right kind of sweet spot where we want to be. We'll grow a little bit next year. So we'll probably add 1 agent in each of our offices. We have an office in Fort Worth and an office in on the Dallas side. But the thing I'm really fired up about right now is what we call our pirate score, which is hilarious. It's our ARR, our active referral rate. We jokingly our ARR, right? But that's how many referrals we get from our active clients during the transaction. Before we've closed and funded, and now they roll into kind of past client territory. That to me is a really great real-time score of the world-class value we're delivering to our clients or not. So we have a bunch of scripting and a bunch of systems that support that, but we want to improve that even further. We're a lot more excited about that than we are about new leads. And look, I love marketing. I love new people and new relationships, but we're really only after new people to expedite the process of building unbelievable, phenomenal, world-class relationships where people want to come back and tell their friends. So we're obsessive about growing that number even higher, our active referral rate, or we jokingly call our pirate score.
Yeah, because you set up the request for the referral right when you first meet with them and get the contract signed. You kind of state that that's an expectation right at the very beginning.
It's part of our initial consultation.
It's not something you bring up, oh, by the way, at the very end.
Right. Yep.
The expectation set up front.
Yeah, we tell them straight up, look, my goal is you're going to introduce me to a few people before we get finished with this thing. And if you don't, the feedback I'll take from that is that we're really not knocking it out of the park for you. Now, would it be okay if I use that as kind of my measuring guide? I know that sounds a little bit presumptuous, but my commitment to you is I'm going to deliver that level of value, legitimately world-class. That's what we're after. So if you're not telling 2 or 3 friends, family, neighbors, coworkers about us, my read will be that I'm not delivering the kind of value that you want to tell people about. Does that seem fair? Does that seem okay? And then we build off of that for the rest of our lives, but certainly the rest of the transaction. And our goal is that we would get it at least 1. Our back end internal goal is at least 1 before closing and funding.
Well, and Todd, with that, so we do the same thing, and we framed it in a technique called the promise. So you meet with the client, you just say, our promise to you is that we're going to provide you with the most exceptional real estate experience on earth. When we deliver on this promise, I'm going to ask you to do 2 things for me. 1, I'm going to ask you to give me a 5-star review on my Google business page or whatever you're trying to attract views for. And 2, I'm going to ask you to provide me with a referral of anyone you know that's looking to buy or sell real estate. And then the real catch of this is you have to then explain to them that during this transaction, we're going to check in with you to make sure we're delivering on that promise. So we do 3 check-ins after inspection, after appraisal, and the day before closing. And what we found that's been so powerful is it's not only gotten us more reviews and referrals, but it actually puts out a lot of fires because we're checking in and saying, hey, can we help deliver on that exceptional, or how are we doing on delivering the most exceptional real estate experience? And if they start screaming at us, we're like, well, okay, how can we fix it instead of waiting until the closing day and getting blown up on? So I think for those agents out there that want that pro tip, yeah, exactly like Todd said, that's a huge piece, but you have to present it right on the front side.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned reviews. My third big growth thing is we want to get to 1,000 reviews. In the last 2.5 years, we've gone.
That's incredible.
We've gone from 41 reviews to 580 something.
And how long?
In 2.5 years, 2.25 years, something like that.
Is it on Google?
Yeah. So I was never sold on Zillow reviews. I'm not saying that I was like a fortune teller. I felt like I owned that. I controlled that content even less than Google, and that Google was less industry specific and less likely to try to murder me. But anyway, we leaned on Google early. We were super early to Google local. And our team and a lot of our coaching consulting clients have benefited massively from that. It's a topic for another time, but we very seriously want to get to 1,000 reviews. Actually, that was one of our topics at the Real Geeks user conference this year. But going from 40 something to 580 something has absolutely changed our business almost entirely positively. There are some negatives, by the way. Like we have a radio show and we run radio ads, and now people still go to Google to check us out. And now sometimes Google's found a way to make me pay them for a lead I already paid to create, but long story short, I love that you included the review piece. We do as well, but a lot of people don't. They want the referral, but they haven't fully calculated the lifetime value of really amazing social proof, third-party endorsement online in a place that you don't have to drive the traffic to. You should be, but Google is spending billions of dollars to do that. We built a whole new course for our coaching group this year called Social Proof. We could come up with a much better name, but marketing through those third-party endorsements and Google reviews are one of the absolute best ways to do that. So
it also, Todd, it changes the culture, right? If you're teaching your agents to deliver exceptional service, before we were like, this is years ago, we were like, just get to the finish line, right? Like, and keep it moving. So now the culture has been based upon this exceptional service. And the other pro tip, Frank, that we learned is to make sure you're compensating your TC staff based upon the receivable of the referral and the 5-star review. Before, we used to just say, if you close a deal, you get a bonus. Most agents pay their TC. Hey, you get a base salary, and then every time we close a deal, you get something. But once we change that bonus structure to be all about obtaining that referral and that review, we went from 20% rate of getting a 5-star review to now we're at 75%. So 75% of every closing we've received, we're getting a 5-star review, meaning actually, in the system. And that was huge for us to go from 20 to 75%, but we just started focusing on it. And then incentivizing the people involved in that process to make sure that they were all on high alert.
Randy, what are some of your things that you're going to focus on for 2021?
Yeah, so
2022, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so what I wrote down is, so we do a process called the 10-25-90. Every 10th of the month, we do a client giveaway. Every 25th of the month, we do a business spotlight on a local business spotlight with video. And then every 90 days, we do a client appreciation event. So we call it the 10-25-90, your combination for success. So with that, in next year, we're going in a deeper dive on this. Our giveaway, we just had one yesterday. When we do these client giveaways, it's such a great non-threatening way to interact with our database. We get a ton of referrals from it. There's a script that goes along with it. There's a whole buildup on how you do all this. And I had to learn from some other top agents across the country. So we're really wanting to take a much deeper dive on that. One of my mentors said to me, he goes, Brendan, how much are you spending on internet leads or leads in general? And I said, whatever the number was at the time, it might've been like 10 grand, 20 grand, whatever. And I go, 10 grand. He goes, all right, think about this. What if you did a giveaway to all of yourself in your agent's database, and you didn't give away 10 grand, but you gave away something nice? Like, let's say you spend $1,000 a month on something really cool that people would want to call in and possibly win. And the light bulb went off in my mind, where I was just like, wait a second, instead of just buying leads third party, I could actually generate interest myself. And so that gave me that doorway to do it. So that was a big thing. So we're taking a deeper dive. And in the business spotlight, one of the things we wanted to do was build our affiliated business network. So on the 25th of the month, we feature a local business. At first, we just started out with a cell phone. Now we've got like full on camera crew, like it's like next level.
Nice.
And they love it. And then then we're sharing it on all of our agents' social. They're getting all of this referrals. And a lot of times we'll tie them into the giveaway. So they'll even donate us something for the giveaway. And so we'll play it off of that. And then every 90 days, just that client appreciation event, which has been difficult because of COVID. So we've looked at ways of making that in smaller groups, but still as powerful. So that's what we're really focusing on, is diving deeper into that. My goal is to get away from but reducing my outbound lead cost, where I'm purchasing a lead from anyone else, even pay-per-click, to where I'm producing it myself, is my real goal for 2022.
Man, that's powerful. So leadership values, and then essentially you're really going to have to build your own database as opposed to be charging a toll for access to someone else's.
Completely. I'm so sick of agents, and me being sick too, of my agents going, this lead from XYZ company sucks, right? And we know it's a numbers game. It's like, of course, and you coach them and it's for every 10 out of this. But if they're invested in it, and like yesterday, we have this huge session for getting everybody to call in for the giveaway and all of this stuff. And we get, 250 people calling in. And out of that, we pull 15, 20 referrals from it.
What was the giveaway?
A Nespresso coffee machine that makes like this really fancy, it's like the gold version.
You just call enter. If you call, you get a ticket.
Yeah.
Easy.
We have a call. So it's from 12 to 6. You call in, we put your name in, we do a drawing. There's a whole system to this whole thing. Every piece matters that, I'm more than happy to talk about on a later date, but it blew my mind. And so that switched the gear of going, stop being dependent on someone else and generate it yourself and have fun doing it. It's a lot more fun this way than writing giving Zillow X amount of dollars or whatever. No offense, Zillow, just the goal is to how can we generate ourselves?
You're doing giveaways, Todd?
Yeah, we have we're obsessive about our raving fan club. And so we don't do them quite the same way. I've seen the call-in thing work really well. We've actually never done it quite that way. And I've said for years I'm going to, so we need to try it. But we do 4 annual events with our raving fan club. And then we do a couple of giveaways. We do some contests. Yeah. So that's a goal every year, right? So that wasn't on my top 3, but that's a goal every year, is just to deepen our level of relationship, connection, fun, trust with our raving fan club and our database as a whole. Our events also had to change a little bit this year with COVID. We didn't do our minor league ballpark deal. We did our back to school ice cream. We did our pie day. And we did the February workshop that I talked about a little bit earlier that we're planning for this year as well. But we do 1 per quarter. It gives all of our team members a perfect excuse to reach out and touch every single person in the database because they have something valuable to offer. That's why we do it quarterly. We do some surprise unsolicited giveaways. We have a really developed Christmas card campaign that is happening as we speak for most of our team and a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, that's on our list every year, is to deepen the level of connection, to further recognize the lifetime value of a trusted, excited past client, vendor partner, advocate. And we're trying to bridge the gap between one to many media like radio, like YouTube, like pay-per-click, to, again, I said earlier, the only reason we do any of that is just to expedite the process at which we deepen relationships with people. I actually don't love truly referral only, database only businesses, but I also do not love purely marketing only, one and done churn businesses. I think there's real maturity, stability, longevity to businesses that do both really well.
Yeah, I always say if you're going to build a business, right, think about it like a restaurant. You can't only have a restaurant where you feed your friends and family. You've got to get new customers in the door somehow, some form or fashion. And I think it's the connection of those two. And then I think, Frank, the other thing I wrote down here on my page was the big thing that we're going to go deeper on is, I was just at a mastermind down in Austin for top team owners inside of our company. And the moderator asked a question. He said, so what's the biggest problem that all of you are facing as team owners? And the number one thing that came back was the cost of talent, right? The cost of salaries right now. And so the use of virtual assistants, I was probably one of the late adopters on the VA adoption scale. Now I'm like the spokesperson for it, because once I understood it and understood what they can do and the leverage that they can provide, still utilizing our current staff. So we have 1 TC and then 4 virtuals that assist her in doing all of this other stuff. And the 4 virtuals are still half the cost of another human being. Once we learned that process, it changed everything, because it gives you more money to be able to do more to help your agents, to help your team. If I'm not having to pay another, I hate to say it, another.
Yeah, it's very expensive to live in America.
Well, it's very expensive.
So if you're going to be hiring positions that are probably somewhere between maybe upwards of 20 an hour, maybe it's, it used to be probably maybe 10 to 15, but maybe up to 20, you're going to have a lot of turnover. because it's very hard to make a living at that pay. If if the position pays 15, 16, 17 an hour and you want someone there that can consistently do the job for long term, they're probably going to come to you and say, Brendan, I got to make more money. And you're going to go, well, I can't afford to pay you more money. And they're going to leave. So you're going to have turnover. Whereas if you go around the rest of the world, especially now how people have been brought up in English and they've been brought up in technology and culture, you could probably find those positions for somewhere between maybe $6 to $8 an hour.
Exactly.
And doing pretty much just
And
as well.
Zoom changed everything.
And there won't be much turnover because the pay in those countries, that's top tier talent. So you don't have a turnover issue. So what you probably will see, one of the big trends going into 2022 is, a few very well-paid managers in the States, like a few very well-paid managers on your team, very probably low footprint for office space or lowering your office footprint. And then lots of specialized roles in foreign labor reporting to the highly paid managers overseeing everything.
Beautiful.
You guys want me to be the contrarian?
Sure. Good.
Always.
Let me be clear up front. I don't disagree with anything that anybody said. I think that's the trend. I think there's wisdom and efficiency and cost savings. And I think you can do it with integrity and without losing much of anything. I just, from a style perspective and from a long-term strategy perspective, am a huge fan of on-site interpersonal connection, relationship, back to the kind of culture value that Brendan was talking about. We love doing battle every day, shoulder to shoulder with our people. And we have built into our model a willingness to factor in the cost of that, right? Because I think it's an investment in the long term where.
Well, because your whole thing is getting 6-7% commissions. Right.
Yes. Or higher.
Higher.
But,
yeah.
But the point, yeah. And again, that's part of it, is that it's a different model that requires more trust building and connection. And that's who we want to be. And for a lot of people, that sounds really risky in a market where they believe there's commission compression, technology competition. I think the opposite of that. I'm not wired that way. I'm a contrarian in nature, but I also, as a strategic business thinker, I'm going, hey, look, picture your worst case scenario where some big billion-dollar tech company comes in and wipes out the majority of people. I want to stand out from that crowd as the local, with a footprint, with on-site folks that know people, have relationships. I don't need the majority of the marketplace. I need that remnant that's like, I don't freaking care what XYZ.biz offers. I want to look someone in the eye, shake their hand, and do business with them. I want to dominate that remnant. And I have a whole kind of teaching thing I do on this for folks that we don't have time for that. But the point is, let's just say 90% of the residential housing market goes towards one super efficient one-stop shop technology. And that's not what y'all are saying. So I'm not speaking against what you're saying, but the extreme of that efficiency factor would be one website does it all. I want to be the thing that they're laughing at. They're like, these guys have desks and computers in an office with a lock on the door that people go to. Like, yes, I will be the person that dominates that high end, high touch, high dollar, high value, appreciative human relationship, obsessive person. I want to dominate that remnant. Now, everyone doesn't want that, but that's where we are, which is why we haven't gone that way. That doesn't mean we don't have some efficiencies. We don't have some third party, we've been testing Conversion Monster, third-party appointment setting service. Historically, I haven't been a huge fan of those services, but we've been testing one recently, and we've seen some unbelievably awesome results with a sliver of our business we've tested that on. But I just wanted to voice that for the people watching and listening that are like, hey, that's not my model. That's not my desire. That's okay. I'm all for it. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying for where my goals, my values, my desires are, we haven't gone that route, and there's room for both models to be really, really successful in a country as amazing as the United States.
Yeah, well, where it came down to us, Todd, was my TC manager, who's amazing and has been with us for a long time. It was getting to the point where the only way to continue her compensation scale for her to grow with what we had available to be able to do was for her to handle more. Otherwise, we had to bring in another person.
Right.
And it was either, do you want us to pay you and you manage these people? or do we need to bring in another person? And so
Right.
I'm with you. It wasn't like we were trying to scale faster. It was, I was trying to get a valued person even more compensation, because if I had to hire a second local person, I couldn't afford
Well,
to
and that's the same
but I needed
argument
to
for
deliver enough
technology,
service.
right? It's the same argument for technology. Like, look, I want you to grow in your income, in your influence, and in your enjoyment on site. So instead of splitting up your job, we're going to bring in a system, right? So yeah,
Right.
I'm not just saying that to sound good. I absolutely don't disagree with any of that. I wanted to point out for people that have different values and different approaches to business that if you're an on-site person, there's ways to factor in that cost. There's ways to target a client that wants that more. There's room for lots of models. I think there's still going to be room in the future too. Some of these things are being squeezed. Others of them just require a more creative approach, or the willingness for your business not to look like everybody else, on the top 200 list or whatever the case may be. So hopefully that's an encouragement to some.
But Todd, you did say that this year you're now thinking about scaling more. Has that been a decision for you? Or are you thinking about growing a little bit bigger than you have in the past?
Yeah, we're in a spot now where our primary motivator for growth is impact.
Yeah.
Right. It's not about more units or trophies. We've never really cared about any of that stuff. If we're going to add 1 or 2 agents, we want our current agents to mature into their capability and the life they want to live, the business that will support that life. And then we want 1 or 2, maybe 3 at the most, new people to have every opportunity to scale into, right? So we'll grow to whatever level that is. Chances are, believe it or not, it's probably going to be to go from 3 million in GCI to 4 million in GCI without changing a whole lot. And I think we're there.
So what was your challenge then this past year? Like, what was the biggest, inside your organization? What was hard?
To be honest, it was an unbelievably fun, really, really fantastic year. But if we had a limitation, it was, we could have used 1 or 2 more people where everybody's slammed, everybody's busy. Everybody would really like to take that vacation now, but someone's got to show these homes. Someone's got to work these offers. And nobody died. Nobody threw a big fit, but it would have been nice to have 1 or 2 more really gifted people. And we interviewed 20 or 30 people. We just hired 1 of them, literally. And he went from being on unemployment coming out of a travel job to having the best year of his life within an 8.5 month period, which is incredible. But we just didn't find anybody else that we felt really excited about, jumping into business with. So that was, every year I could give you the same answer. The limitation is incredibly talented, hardworking, fun to be around, similar value people. We had plenty of silly problems and annoyances, but that was the only significant limiter of our growth. And I say that so carefully because I used to be in that mindset that, I wanted to hit this to prove something to someone. I wanted to hit something to impress certain people. And I'm really grateful as a follower of Christ and as a more mature business owner, I still have plenty to learn, that those are just no longer our motivation for growth. It's about who can we impact. Honestly, selfishly, not growing would be easier and probably more fun in some regard, where we don't have to change much. Just, wash, rinse, repeat, make great money, love on our people, and spend time with family and friends. And watch Baylor win another Big 12 championship, Frank, just, as a little private school in Waco. I'm just kidding. We don't have to do that now.
I want to give a little tip for something that I'll be working on with people that I think everyone can take here that works really well.
Okay.
Email is still as strong as ever.
Yep.
Especially if it's like a personal message. So I challenge everyone here to round up their database and all the emails that you have, and take all the emails you have from all your various systems, Brendan, and all the emails you have in your various systems, Todd, and just sit down and write like a half-page personal note, all text. That's a personal note that I'll give you a couple of ideas. First one is, hey, I just wanted to write you and let you know home prices are really up. And the stuff that you see online, for example, Zillow, may not be as accurate considering that they got out of the business. And I got a tool on my website that you can click here and find out what your home is worth. And when you do that, it'll come back with a number. And if you reply back to this email, if you send me some photos and we have a phone conversation, I can personalize the number to what it actually is probably accurate based upon comparable home sales and the features of your house. I can probably do it over the phone, or I can come to your home. But if you're interested in what your home is worth, click here. If you just send that out, you'll drive like a ton of registrations back on your website to find out what your home is worth, adding some value to have a personalized conversation afterwards. Got it? Another thing. Yeah. I mean, just writing up a little email saying, hey, if you're thinking about buying a home this spring, it's going to be hard. There's not much for sale and it's very competitive, but there is something that you really need to look into right now is that you can get one of these buy before you sell thingamabobbers. That's what you can say in the email where, you're qualified and you can buy with all cash. So instead of having to have your offer contingent on financing and your mortgage, you can make an all cash offer, but you probably want to get qualified for that. So if you want to apply for one of those right now and want to see if you can actually qualify for an all cash offer when you do want to buy, click here and find out. And if you have any questions about the process, I'm here to help. And we'll drive a bunch of people that actually want to buy a home that want to qualify for an all cash offer back to a landing page. Right. Yeah. And I can keep going on and on. I could say, hey, if you're looking to buy a home, here's some homes that there's not many, but I ran a search for my website of homes that are, I don't know, probably the mortgage payment would be less over 30 years than the rent. Right. So if you want a list of homes that would probably the mortgage payment would be less than arguably your rent, here's a list. I ran a list already on your website. Just click here, check it out. And that will drive a whole bunch of opt-ins and registrations to probably get the pictures, depending on how you have your home site search set up. What I'm trying to say here is doing a better job of bringing some awareness of how simple it is to slow down and write a half-page little direct offer, you call it, to email to your list with something helpful and useful with a link they click, driving back to a landing page to get something. And it's a cheap, simple, fast, relatively painless way if you just sit down and just kind of do it versus slogging out cold calls or having to pay the giant referral fees, right, Brendan?
No,
of sending some more direct offers to your list. I think that 90, 10, 25 thing, I forget the numbers.
Yeah, 10, 25, 90.
Perfect. All right. Is writing an offer to your database. Just writing an offer, I use that in marketing language, not like a purchase offer to buy a home, but like a marketing offer. Hey, apply to get a bridge loan. Hey, apply to get an instant offer on your home. Find out what your home is worth. Search for homes that are affordable. Hey, here's a list of all the best investment properties I found. Come get it. But more proactively sending out to your database those offers to drive clicks back to your website for opt-ins is really powerful. My wife and I run a little real estate investment business. And I was just sitting around. I was trying to make my wife a point of why I don't want to take out the trash. It's like, Frank, take out the trash. I'm like, Katie, I'm not going to take out the trash because the opportunity cost of my time is so great. And she's like, shut up. I'm like, no, I'll prove it. Watch. So at the time, it would have taken me to take out the trash. This is terrible for your marriage. I don't recommend this, but it's a case in point. Like, Katie, come over here. So I wrote a little email. Hey, dear friends and family, you're in my database because you're probably interested in getting an offer on your home. If that's still the case, we're still really interested in buying it. If you want an updated offer on your home, click right here, Frank. That's it. Took all the leads, sent it out. And I tell you, at the time, it probably would have taken me to put my clothes on in the cold here in Tennessee, take the trash out all the way down to the end of the driveway. There were literally opt-ins coming in of people wanting an offer on their home.
You're going to get yourself in trouble, Frank.
I know this is so terrible.
Send the email and then take the trash out while the results are coming in. This is a bad
then
system.
I took the trash out afterwards. But what I'm getting at is that if we slow down a little bit and realize that, you can sit down and craft a message and just email it out. You can drive response just from doing that. That's it. That's all I want to share.
Well, one of the amazing agents in my office takes that exact point, but she just does it with a company called Addressable and does it with direct mail. So they just make your letters look like you actually hand wrote it. And so she does the exact same messages you just talked about, but actually sends it to her farm in her database. Mm-hmm. And she said the response rate is unparalleled and unbelievable. Now, obviously, email is a lot smarter, a lot easier, a lot faster and technical, or a lot quicker. But I think what you're hearing there is just, you're connecting directly with someone and keeping the message so simple, and you're offering some sort of value. If you can do that,
one that we do this time of year, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, is it's just, hey, if you have, dear friends, family, whatever, if you have any real estate goals this year at all, I'm sure you've seen a million messages and are totally overwhelmed like everyone that we talk to. We've set aside every afternoon in January just to do some simple free strategy sessions to understand your goals, help you set a timeline, get some clarity. If you want to buy or sell now, great. Of course, we'd love to help. If you're 2-3 years out, that's great. We'd like to make sure the next 2 to 3 years aren't filled with uncertainty. If you'd like to jump on Zoom or swing by the office, we'd be glad to buy you a drink. We'd love to connect either way, even if you have no goals at all, right? To Frank's point, calm, no bull, even keeled. Like I said earlier, the goal is just to kind of connect, be the voice of reason, cut through all the overwhelm. Now there's better copywriting and there's better email systems, but if you'll just do something like that, you'll build momentum rolling into next year. That's why we use that. We've built out that January strategy session. And of course there's some layers to strategy, but if all you did was just make the offer, like Frank said, or the invite, and the more targeted, to Brendan's point, even better. But if you don't go to that trouble.
Todd, what tech are you using besides Real Geeks?
So I'll answer this with a little bit of a caveat. We have had Infusionsoft for like 11 years. If Real Geeks was as developed now as it was as developed then as it is now, we probably never would have added it. But we've got multiple businesses built out in Infusionsoft, so we still use it. But we use Real Geeks for everything front end. And once they're a past client, we roll them into Infusionsoft, and then we do some coaching, consulting, our radio show, our publishing. We do some real estate agent publishing stuff over there too. But that's basically it.
Awesome.
Those two. I mean, we use some third party deals like Callfire and some stuff like that, but 99% of what we do is in Infusionsoft and Real Geeks, primarily Real Geeks on the front end.
So I want to thank you guys. I want to wrap this show up. So we did a nice little predictions for 2022, sorry. What we learned in 2021, what you're going to change in 2022 based upon what you learned this year. That was very helpful. And then you also shared some of the major things you're going to double down, knowing kind of the needs of the market and where you're at in your businesses for next year to start planning. I want to thank everyone for watching this year of the Keeping It Reals that we've done. You can watch all the replays up on keepingitreal.com. You can also go to the Real Geeks Facebook page. We think we have these live in the group now. And you can watch all the past replays. They're all there for you, searchable with write-ups to help it easy to help you find the content that you want to solve the problems in your business. We're going to take a couple of weeks off. We're going to come back in the new year of 2022 with a whole new season. And I want to say thank you so much for watching these, and have a wonderful holiday and new year.
Merry Christmas, everybody.